ask you a question, Jim. Don't ask it out loud. Anyway. He's going, well, it is, but it isn't. And I said to him, I remember saying, well, I understand there's different systems of counting and whatever, and that's true. But there's truth within that truth, and I want us to understand that. Whenever we say this is the truth, and whenever we say that's the way it is, or whenever we say this is a moral truth, what does that really mean? Because depending on what we're talking about, depending on what conversation we're having, depending on what the subject matter is, it may not be the truth. For example, I'll read from here. In mathematics, you cannot consider 1 plus 1 equals 2 to be an absolute truth. It is only true within a certain numbering scheme. Does anybody know what that scheme is besides Jim? Nope. Decimal system. It's a decimal system. That's right. That's right. But you see, there are other numbering schemes. There is the, I'm probably going to pronounce this right, tertiary. Is that correct? The tertiary system. That's on a base of 3. Or the octal system. That's on a base of 8. There's a decimal system. It's on the base of 10. Or the hexadecimal system. It's on the base of 16. Or, when it really gets into 1 plus 1 equals 2, there's the binary system. In the binary system, 1 plus 1 does not equal 2. 1 plus 1 equals 10. Now, if you're sitting here going, I don't know what that means. Why is that important to me? Because if I understand correctly, your computer systems are set up on a binary system. Every time you sit down at a computer, the binary system is a part of your life. 1 plus 1 is not equal to. 1 plus 1 always equals 10. So, whenever, for me, Mrs. Smith told me 1 plus 1 always equals 2, Mrs. Smith was a bold-faced liar. Even though she was a grandmother in 2nd grade or 1st grade or whatever it was. 1 plus 1, that always equals 2. Liar! That's not the case. But we say that's an absolute truth. It's not. So whenever we say this is truth, or that is truth, or this is not truth, what exactly are we talking about? Is there such a thing as moral truth? Well, I don't know. You see, because it's so confusing, our society has taken a very specific turn. If you're sitting there going, Jeff, I don't understand really kind of what you're saying, because this is all, it's like you're speaking in riddles. Yeah. What is truth? What isn't truth? If I throw out an abstract that says, is it okay for the doctor to help the terminally ill in pain in their life, you say, well, I don't know, I have a pretty definite answer on that until it's my grandmother. And then maybe my answer changes or whatever else. So is there moral truth or isn't there moral truth? And the answer comes back to that whole scheme and those answers and those questions and that wonderment has literally changed the society that we live in. Are you aware of that? From the year 1500 to the year 2000 is known as the modern era. The modern age. In the modern era, there were very specific things that were in place that resulted in very specific things, the way people lived. For example, in the modern era, the faith was primarily the Judeo-Christian faith. And of course, if you're really concerned about your history, you're going, when was America started? This covers America. Primarily Judeo-Christian faith. That was above and beyond everything else. From that, there was an atmosphere of Christian faith teaching where even if you did not go to church, you still agreed with it. If the person was said, I am not a religious person, I don't go to church, don't have anything to do with that, and then they got into a moral argument, they would almost always come down on Christian faith teaching because that was the overlying atmospheric umbrella teaching for everybody that they knew. The Judeo-Christian faith. From that, a person tried to live by the 10 Commandments. Most people understood basic Bible stories. Most people knew what it meant to say when Jesus died for our sins. And the word God usually meant the Judeo-Christian God. By the way, the word God, did you hear in the news about how Oh my gosh, I just went blank on the country. But I want to say it was in Africa, where Christian churches were being bombed by Islamic radicals because they were using the word Allah. The Christian were saying. Even though it was a Saudi Arabian word that's been around before the religion of Islam, Islam claimed that word only pertains to our God. You can't use it. And they bombed the churches. Because there was a government ruling that overturned a previous ruling that went to their side and said you can't use it. And so they put an exclamation point on it by bombing the churches. From the year 1500 to the year 2000, primarily in the worlds that we lived in, or the world, the community we lived in, God meant the God of the Bible. This faith, or these ideas, or this foundation resulted in a belief in one God, which resulted in a rational, logical system of learning. That's very important for you to understand. The way your grandparents, the way our parents, and for the most part the way we were raised, was built off of a rational, logical system of learning. From that, learning was propositional. You offer a suggestion for something to be done or accepted. Life was viewed through the lens of the hometown, through the lens of where I grew up. Truth was absolute, and the Bible provided a reference point for all experience. But guess what? It just turned 2010. We no longer live in what is known as the modern era. This is the postmodern era. In the postmodern era, everything is different. Our values and our beliefs of our children are shaped by a global, pluralistic atmosphere. So all these little ankle biters running around here, and all these kids being held, and all these kids that are back in the nursery, the world they grew up in is literally not the world you grew up in. And you're sitting there going, well, I think I know that, Jeff. I'm not sure we do. I'm not sure we do. We grew up in a world that was primarily a faith of Judeo-Christianity that was permeated through everything. Today, beliefs and values are shaped by a global, pluralistic atmosphere. There is instant exposure to global news, global fashion, global music, and global religions. There are many gods, many faiths, and many forms of spiritual expressions that are taught. We are taught that all faiths are equal. But Christianity is primarily a bad religion. Bad. Negative. Why? Because Christianity is known for finger pointing and condemnation of the behavior of other people. And you and I both know that. You and I both know that how Christianity across the board is viewed as his condemnation. Whenever people needed help, what do they find in the church? Well, you should have known better than that. Yes, no, yes, no. I'll answer the hard ones for you. Yes. The number one response, well, how'd you do that? Well, why'd you do that? Well, you should have known better than that. Thank you very much for making my shame even greater. Appreciate you making me feel more guilty for being a complete failure. And people go somewhere else. They'll go to another religion. The Ten Commandments are not taught. Why? Because the Bible is simply one of many religious writings. Why would we put the Ten Commandments up in our courthouses whenever the Quran over here has great teachings as well? That you can't do that. You can't put the writings of one religious teaching up because you have all these other world religions and you're treating them inferior. In fact, in the postmodern era, when you put the Ten Commandments up, the idea is you're actually giving preference to the inferior religion. Because that's the religion that is so focused on themselves. That's the religion that points fingers at everybody. That's the religion that says that your behavior is unacceptable. Put the writings up of the other religions that teaches tolerance. In the postmodern era, ethics and morals are based on your personal choice. Families encourage their children to make their own decisions.